Woo child, summer is here. What are you gonna do, mama? Today's episode is for that mom in real estate, the bestie who's like, okay, how am I gonna manage these kids, keep up with this business? How about drum up some business in this crazy market and have some fun over the summer? Well, if that is you and you are trying to figure it all out, then welcome to the club. And this episode is for you. And just for kicks and giggles, if you are watching on YouTube, then listen, you see my son, he is literally knocked out on the couch behind me. And I was going to start this video by like moving him and, trying to readjust him so that I had the perfect frame. But the reality is that it ain't perfect, okay? It's not perfect at any time, and definitely in summer when we are just navigating, showing up for our business, but also being a good mom and showing up for our kids. It can be a lot. And I'm going to share with you just some tips that I have learned along the way because, summer was used to sneak up on me. Like it just surprised me that I actually had to attend to my kid. And I'm going to share what I have learned along the way and give you some practical tips that you can put in your business. So the whole thought for this episode came up. My son Cameron, 13 years old, he is sitting in the back napping, y'all. Mama didn't put him to work. But I am actually going on a trip. I go on an annual girls trip with some of my girlfriends, and we are going to my hometown, Chicago. Actually, when you're listening to this episode, I will be in Chicago. We're kicking it off with a bestie event. So shout out to all the Chi-Town besties who are at that event. And yeah, and we're going to like roll it into a girls trip. So, if you've been around, I've told you about my health and wellness journey, and I'm happy to report. I just told you a few podcasts ago that I was a little annoyed that the scale wasn't moving, but I am starting to feel the inches drop. My husband told me I was fine. I mean, he said you've been fine, but he gave me a little extra compliment. So I'm feeling it. I'm like motivated to keep going. But I'm going to Chicago. And if you know anything about Chicago, and especially when you're on a girls trip with your homegirls, I don't know about you, but what we do is we eat. I don't drink no more, but we eat and we shop, right? So I reached out to my coach, my health and wellness coach, and I was just like, yeah, about that meal plan in Chicago. Like, what we gonna do? Like, do you just want me to like, holler at you when I get back? Like, how's this gonna go down? Because I am not like, as much as I am looking forward to, or I'm committed to this goal and this process, I also want to be realistic about my life. We've been planning this trip for a while. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to be sitting there sad because, everybody having birthday cake and I'm eating tilapia. So, so she was like, no, I'm so happy that we're talking about it because you are still going to track. You're still going to follow up with me. The scale again is just for data, but we will adjust the plan, right? We will adjust the scale. We will adjust your macros while you are there so that you will have more room and more flexibility so that you don't have to quote unquote cheat so that I can actually, just have more calories to work with. She was like, but before you go though, right? I'm going to adjust down to counteract it. And when she gave me, and I was like, cool, that's cool. Like, yes. Until she showed me how she was adjusting me down. And after I got over just being mad about the next 4 days, like how little I get to eat, I thought about it like, no, I'm happy because what this is going to do is this pre-planning and having some strategy around what I'm putting in my body, it's going to help me reach the overall goal. And that's the whole point of this episode talking about summer, right? Because what happens is that you have a lot of real estate agents that either, like, you feel like you have to choose. You either lose all momentum in summer because that's when we normally plan a vacation. That's where there are normally more things going on, and you lose all momentum on running the business, or you're so focused on running the business and thinking that now that your kids are home all day, now that you're cooking more meals, now that there are more social obligations, we put the same exact pressure, and maybe pressure isn't the word. We operate with the same expectation as we have in our normal schedule and don't plan for it, and then we get frustrated. So just like I'm pre-gaming, right? I'm pre-planning for and making some action steps and adjusting my habits and even adjusting what I'm going to do when I get to Chicago. That's how we're going to talk about it here today. And just for giggles, okay, if you're looking on YouTube, my son will love it. Just say hey Cameron in the comments. Like when I wake him up when he sees this episode, he don't even know that he on the Real Estate Bestie podcast today, but I will let him see all of your hellos. Okay, so let's talk about my tips though. So tip number one is do not, and hear me well, do not use summer as an excuse to stop time blocking, okay? And if you haven't time blocked before, you might want to get on it, okay? In short, time blocking is when we tell our time where to go. And I'm telling you, between splash pads and birthday parties and family reunions and all these different things, you could just be feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm running in every different direction and not making any time for your business. So, this is still the time to be in the habit of time blocking. And I'm going to tell you, last night was Sunday night. Sunday is my normal time block day. And honestly, this week I really have 2.5 work days, and the rest of it is girls' night, vacation, the whole deal. But guess what? I still time blocked, right? Because just like I have to pregame my meals, I needed to make sure that I was Johnny on the spot with my appointments, with my conversations, with everything that needs to happen. I'm going to be out of town for a week in total because I'm going home, go see my daddy, have fun, all the whole thing. So I needed to time block so that I can make sure that I was hitting and prioritizing the things that need to happen in Texas for my personal life, for my business, for Bestie, for you, for all of these things before I left. But then even let me tell you what's interesting. Like even the days that like my friends are coming and we're having girls trip. Now I didn't time block to the minute of like the activities that we're doing because we'll be very fluid. But I wrote on the time block girls trip. And what I love about that, and now I'm just even thinking about how in alignment I am with my coach, because like, remember, I went to her initially saying, hey, do I just like not track my meals? And she was like, no, 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 still track them. And she even told me, like, this is how many calories you get. Even if you go over, I want you to just be in the habit of tracking because that's who you are and that's what we do. What happens is if we give ourselves a pass not to follow our basic habits, it's going to be even harder to get back into it. So make sure that you are time blocking, okay? Now, I want you to be realistic with your time blocks too, though, okay? I remember Kim is now 13, so he's a lot more self reliant. And not only is he more self-reliant, but like, he gets himself up. Like it's not he's not a little kid who is I don't even want to use the word distracting me, but that's what they be doing. They be all in your business when you're trying to make phone calls, all trying to do all that stuff. So when he was younger, I made the fatal mistake of thinking like I'm home all day. I don't want to pay for a camp. But then being very frustrated and having a short fuse with him when I couldn't lead generate or make phone calls or show up in the way that I was used to showing up. And it just made for a lot of tension and frustration. So with this time block, I want you to think through, okay, what do you want to do with your kids? Like time block the activities. Are they going to be in a summer camp? Like, okay, so if they're in a summer camp, that means you need to hit it from, the time that they're there to the time that or the time that they're there to the time they come home so that you can have your non-negotiable lead activities, okay? But then also blocking, like, what are you going to be doing with them? Are you going to take them to the library? Are you going to go to the splash pad? Like, block these activities so that when things come up, you don't feel like you have to say yes or you have to be pulled because you have already taken the time to tell your time where to go. And this is something that I tell the besties in coaching. I would much rather you say, you know what, my kids are home, they're small, we don't I would rather you don't have childcare or whatever that is. Instead of just being frustrated that you can't go at it the same way you normally used to go at it, can you block an hour a day during nap time? Like, can you incentivize them during their quiet work time? That's your quiet work time. And I would rather you be consistent for an hour a day, 90 minutes a day on any day, including the summer, than, just doing a little bit and a little bit of effort here and there, right? Do you need to wake up earlier? Do you need to get them up earlier so that you can get them down for a nap so that you can go in at a different time? Like whatever that looks like, take the time to time block it and really planning ahead. That's the biggest thing. The time block will give you an opportunity to plan ahead. And when you, again, like me, when you have things coming up like vacation and all that good stuff, you get to not only make a plan on how you're going to show up, but you get to prepare your clients. Then this is another thing, like it's okay to have conversations with your clients about when and how you are going to be available. So here's another thing. It's okay to have conversations with your clients to set expectations about what they can expect from you around summer hours. So I'll give you a great example. I've been having conversations with a couple of clients today, been checking in on some listings. Y'all know our sellers are just, it's a different market to be selling the home in, right? So over communicate. I probably need to do a whole episode about, okay, your listings are sitting. So what are some ways that we need to be over communicating with our sellers just to let them know what is happening on the back end? If you want something like that, then hit like so I know that like you want me to do an episode on that. But I was communicating with my seller. We're just kind of going over a game plan. I have some travel, so I was giving her a heads up on like, who would be available and support in my absence. But I shared with her too, like next week is Father's Day around here. And I just shared with her, like, hey, this is when we can do open houses this weekend because next weekend my entire team is going to be off, right? My entire team is going to be off because we want to honor our husbands, our dads, we want to make space for family time. And she, like, they were fine with that. And quite honestly, if I was working with somebody who wasn't fine with that, then that would be a different area of opportunity if we're a good fit to work with each other, because there has to be some rhythms put in place. I don't use balance, but rhythms put in place in terms of what the client's expectations are versus, what we are actually delivering. And we work hard for our clients. We show up diligently, but given that heads up about, why we would not be doing open houses, but we're going to do them this weekend, but I just gave a heads up, is because I was planning ahead. And you can't be afraid to do that, because what happens is without having these upfront conversations, without initiating it, and if you just, you have made up in your resolved in your head what you are and aren't going to do because it's your summer, without communicating that can look like you are not doing everything that you can for the client. So making sure that you're having those conversations and time blocking and planning ahead will help you for that. Okay. So then here's another thing I'm gonna just recommend. Okay. Friend, pay for the camps. Pay for the camps. Pay for the camps. I know in Texas, let me just tell you something. Okay. I don't know who running it. Well, you know what? Everything high. Everything is expensive. Like we live in an economy where things are just expensive. But I bet you, like, if I have a different business plan, I might come back and do a boot camp or something about running a summer camp. Okay. Y'all see my baby moving in the background. About running a summer camp. Because summer camps are expensive, right? They're $300 and $400 and $500. And I just want to preface this to say I've never had a lot of little kids at once. I have one 13-year-old, my other son is 25. But for years, I was just, especially from a teacher brain, I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay over the summer. I'm home. But let me tell you something, not paying costs me more in the long run. And literally look at it, like anything that I purchase now, anything that I do it from the thought process of, like, what do I need to transact? Like, I need to get something under contract, or I need to transact in order to pay for this, in order for it to make sense. Then I don't have to worry about it. So you could literally look at it to say, okay, this is incentive for me to get that extra deal under contract so that my kid can have a summer camp every other week or something like that. It is going to save you so much time and frustration to actually just, and let's just be real, and your kids gonna have more fun. That's another thing. Like, your kids are going to have more fun. They are going to enjoy it. I don't do a camp every single week, and now my son is older, so there is just limited kind of what camps are available for him with his interests. But you better believe 2 to 3 weeks per summer, we are investing in something for him to do so that number one, he gets out, he's exposed to new things, but then number two, so that I can run my business, okay? Because I need to run the business. So definitely, I don't want to use the word cheap, but I definitely want us to be open to making that investment. So that investment in summer camps is going to go a long way in the long run, okay? Now, here is another thing that, like, let's just say you're like, you know what, Rosemary, I hear you, sis, but have you noticed what the market is doing? I'm not in position yet to pay for summer camps. So then I'm going to give you this advice. Here's a step: get some help. Do you have a real life real estate bestie where y'all can kind of alternate, or another friend, right? Like she does the play date on Tuesdays at her house and you do it on Thursdays at your house, right? Or you're going to go to the library thing where you can at least get some work on your database on your computer while the kid is there doing their thing. Like whatever you need to do to leverage, pick up, like open your mouth, get some help. I was talking to one of my friends and she was just saying like she just had a really like planning ahead and had a really big week coming up. And she reached out to her in-laws, right? And was just like, hey, on this week, can they have grandparent camp? Right? Like, can we, or her sister or a friend? I remember going over my auntie house for a month, or not a month, but like a week in the summer. Like, work with the people around you, the people that you trust, and where y'all can swap with each other and get the help. And I'm not saying your kids have to stay overnight with somebody because I know how we can be, but I'm just saying, like, what are the areas where can you get the help? And then here is probably a big one, especially when your kids get older, get them involved, right? Get them involved with the business. Now, right now, that my son is sitting right there asleep. It may not look like he really involved with the business, but I have given him some very specific activities that he's going to do in our business this summer to set up to help us. And, we're going to pay him because there are some tax benefits to that. But like, what are some ways that you can get your kids involved and do stuff with them? I think about Sesame Morrison. Sess is on my team, and like there have been so many days where, like, let's just say she's trying to familiarize herself with builders or do some social media content. Like she is cool with taking her daughter. She has three girls. She'll take them to do the content with her and all these different things. I think that that is brilliant and it gives them an opportunity to see mama at work. When I was younger, my mom owned a restaurant. And even though like my mother cooked, like I have this type of mom, it's funny. Me and one of my other homegirls, we were talking about dinner because she was making sloppy joes for dinner. And I was telling her that that's one of my husband's comfort foods. Like when he is stressed, and it's so crazy, but like sloppy joes is something that's nostalgic for him. That's something that, I'll make him. And she was making her kids sloppy joes. But I was telling her, I was like, but at my house, like my mama didn't cook stuff like that. Like it was either soul food, leftovers, or no food, right? And it wasn't that it was no food because there wasn't food in the refrigerator. But my mama made like a Thanksgiving dinner every Sunday. And if you decided you want to go eat it, that was just on you because it was there. But I say all that to say, even though my mother was such a cook, such a great cook, she had like we always had cakes and pies. She also owned a restaurant for part of my life. And some of my best memories would be when I would be at her restaurant. Like when I got to see her in action, calling the orders and interacting with the customers and, all of those different things. I mean, honestly, now thinking back of it, that may be where I learned some of my entrepreneurial and, just leadership skills. But it was just so cool to see her in action. And like, so think about it. Like, what are the different ways when appropriate? Like, is it ever appropriate for you to take your kids to showing? Some people say that it's not. It's going to be a personal decision for everybody, but there have definitely been times where I've taken my son to showings with me, right? Now, again, I've never had a little bitty kid that I was taking to showings, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? And this is what I love about building a business where you are attracting clients, because when you attract the right clients, like they are all in on you and they understand that you are a holistic person. So definitely don't want to not be professional, right? Showing up with 17 kids and everybody eating a pickle or nothing crazy. But show that flexibility. But also, it's also a great time for your kids to get in front and just see from a different perspective what you are doing. And listen, here's the big thing. Let me just tell you, summer is seasonally, like historically, seasonally, this is one of the fastest ways that or times that the market will move. And we are well into, in the summer, you're moving from the end of Q2 to Q3. And in my opinion, what happens in Q2 and Q3 of the year is really going to set you up for how strong you're going to finish the year. So I just say all that to say, friend, we don't have time to fall back, because in our business in general, just the fact that you're in real estate, for most of us, like I executed a contract last week on like May 30th, it closes July 4th. Okay. So I don't have the luxury of not working the business every day or every couple of days in the summer, because you don't work. Like, let's just think about it. If you take off from, even if you had a closing today, but you're like, you know what, I'm not doing any lead generation, I'm not doing any of this, you can do it. But just know that, okay, if you pick back up in August, then you're not getting paid again in a normal situation. Like if you get something under contract in August, you're not getting paid again into September. But we know those market times are longer. We know that buyers are taking a little longer to make decisions. So it's going to be so very important that we put in the proper measures in place so that you can plan ahead and have a good summer. Now, speaking of planning ahead, and this is just something else I want to point out to you, when you are planning your life and you're planning your summer, you're planning your vacations and all this, I started off by telling you about a girls trip I'm going on in Chicago in a couple of weeks or a couple of days. But baby, we have an ultimate girls trip for the besties, for Real Estate Bestie. The Real Estate Bestie experience is happening. This is our 3-day in-person conference in Frisco, Texas. Okay, it's happening September 21st through the 23rd. Why am I telling you this now? Because I want you to keep going. I want you to be planning in your business. I want you to be budgeting so that you can show up for this experience. I was just at a different training, and he said something so important. He said something along the lines of, like, it's not that we don't have, if we don't have access to abundance, it's that we don't have the awareness of the access. And the awareness happens in the room. And over the 3-day Real Estate Bestie experience, this is what I promise you, is that you come wherever you are in your business. If you're trying to get it off the ground, if you're trying to get the momentum, if you're like, okay, I need some strategies, but more than strategies, I need some belief, right? I need to be around other people who are living the future that I want to live, so that I can see exactly what they're doing, not only in their business, but in their life, so that I can take what I need and implement it. This is going to be something like nothing you've ever experienced before. If you were there last year, you already know it's a whole vibe. And we will put the link here, but it's experiencebestie.com. Okay. Experiencebestie.com. So, Bestie, speaking of experiences, I hope that your experience of summer is amazing. It's just a matter of, how are you going to show up? Are you going to plan ahead? Are you going to time block? Are you going to get the help, right? Are you going to get your kids involved? Or are you just going to sit here and just be frustrated with no plan and be like, yeah, when it all kind of blows up in your face? The choice is yours, but what you can't say is that you didn't get the experience or you didn't get the information today. All right, I hope this was helpful, Bestie. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode and you have a real life bestie that you think it would resonate with, y'all, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that share button, because you know what? We are better together. Make sure you share the podcast, and I appreciate your reviews. I appreciate you giving me 5 stars more than you know. I'll talk to you next week.